someone puts in a lot of effort in making this dash. I'm seeing a potato sticks bag after a long time.
Here's the thing. Pakistan has a huge problem, and it's not what you think. It's cash. Literally, it's cash. Do you know that more than half of the revenue goes unreported? It doesn't get counted in the system. What are we missing, and why do we have this issue even in 2025? To talk about this very pertinent matter, I have someone very apt in the chat room with Shizza today. I'm going to be in conversation with the Minister of State for Finance and Railways, Mr. Bilal Kiani. Hello, welcome. How are you doing, Bilal?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's an absolute pleasure. So let's just begin with what we're here for. We're going cashless, are we?
That is very much the plan. So, I think other economies compared to Pakistan have gone down this path. And I think there are many benefits to going cashless. I think there are, as you know, there's a large part of our economy which is undocumented. Which isn't documented, which means that it doesn't come into the system, it doesn't come into the taxation system. And it also results in various other issues. And I think it also results in issues with respect to financial inclusion. The most underprivileged segments of society don't always get the chance to be able to benefit from the aspects of the economy that are documented. For example, having access to banking, having access to affordable loans, having access to basic banking services. And then in addition to that, there are billions of rupees that are lost each year just in the processing of payments in cash. So there are various reasons to go cashless, not just to reduce the cost of payments, but also to increase the convenience, the increase of ease for the citizen of Pakistan. So to this end, the Prime Minister has started an initiative which is called the Cashless Pakistan Initiative. It's an initiative that he spearheads himself. And there's a steering committee that he chairs himself. And it is very much one of his main priorities. It has various pillars, which I'm sure as we converse more during the course of this conversation, we'll dive into those details. But it's very much a priority, and he's leading this effort and ensuring that all the relevant parts of the government, as well as the private sector, are engaged to ensure that we achieve this objective.
Right. Bilal, I do want to get into each and every little aspect of this movement, literally. But here's a very simple question. There's over 143 million broadband users in Pakistan. Why is this action being taken now? Do you think it's a little too late? While I do understand that change can be scary sometimes. I mean, you have to reach literally households and you have to reach people from all different segments of the society. But to me, it seems maybe a little too late.
So I think that it's not a case that there is no, there are no cashless activities at all. There are. So, for example, you and I, we go to a shop, you go and buy coffee, you're able to use your credit debit cards. So you're able to transact by either using your debit or credit cards, by making payments through your online bank account, by transferring money. And now there is also payment mode where you can make payments through QR codes. So you can go to a shop, and if they have a facility with a QR code, you can open your banking app, you can scan the code, and you can transfer the cash without having to type in the banking details. So these modes are available. But the pace at which this has been taken up, or the pace at which this has grown so far, has been organic and slow. And the whole purpose of this initiative is to have a push from the government at the highest level to ensure that there is more of a impetus provided at each and every level to ensure that we can go cashless as an economy at a faster level. There are three pillars, and we can talk more about this later, but there are three pillars. So the first is digital payments adoption and innovation. This covers aspects like, the number of digital banking users, the number of digital transactions, which means credit card payments or bank transfers through online through your banking app, for example. It includes the number of merchants, for example, or retailers or shops that are offering digital payments. So, for example, as you know, there are various shops that you go to which do offer that option, but there are also various places where you go to purchase. Once again, I keep on thinking of restaurants or coffee shops where at the same time, if you go and buy petrol or diesel at the petrol pump. So not everyone is always offering the facility of cards. Or in another way, if you think about it, it may be offered in certain cities, but not in others. So the idea is, how do we ramp this up? This is one aspect. The second aspect is improving our digital public infrastructure. So which includes the availability of reliable and speedy internet.
Absolutely.
The breadth of internet, both on fixed and mobile. And the third aspect is government payments. So government payments right now are partially digital, some are through check. So there is now also a thrust, and again, I'll dive into more details, where we also want to go cashless on the government payments front. And that includes both types of payments. That includes payments that the government makes to persons and the persons make to government. So I'll give you examples of both. Government to person would mean the government paying to a salary to its employee, the government paying a vendor for a contract that it has awarded, a construction a contract, for example, or for any other service that it is providing. And so right now, sometimes a check will be issued. The idea here is to go completely digital. And in addition to that, we also want to digitize the person to government payments. So for example, for you to be able to have the option of paying the government digitally, to pay your electricity bills and your gas bills and any services that the government is offering, whether you go to Nadra, to ensure that at the very least a citizen has that option of being able to pay digitally. Also digitizing all payments that go through the Benazir Income Support Program to the most vulnerable households, as you know. So there is a thrust on all of these pillars to go cashless. And I think this will be beneficial for both the citizens in terms of their daily convenience and also in terms of saving cost and documenting the economy.
Right, absolutely. And I want you to discuss all the three pillars in detail also. But speaking of digitization, I want you to please paint us a picture of how far along are we in terms of digitization in Islamabad. And then when you say that it's going to benefit people and the government also, how does it benefit the government? I mean, yes, transparency, I understand, but how does it actually benefit the government?
So I think there are two things. The first is that I think, in terms of Islamabad, you asked, I think there's an Islamabad Citizens app, which is now connected to RAST for digital payments. So now for any citizen services, I believe on the app, if you go to the app, you're able to make the payments for those services digitally. The second is that Islamabad has mandated all retail shops in Islamabad to provide digital payments or the option of digital payments to the customers. So that means, and obviously there is some time that has been provided so that the shops are able to, the retailers are able to deploy the resources necessary to provide that payment, to provide that mode. But the idea is that every retailer should, in addition to cash, also be providing at least one option of digital payments, whether that's debit or credit cards, whether that's QR codes, some form of digital payments that they should be providing. With respect to the benefit for government, I think there are two things. When you are able to digitize government payments, first, there are three things that happen. One, it increases the speed of payments. So when the entire thing is digitized, I think the scope or room for wrongdoing decreases, in which you often, one hears about this. This has sadly been a reality in government payments, or generally we hear about this issue, for decades. So that's number one. The number two, it reduces the time. It reduces the time that it will take for these payments to be cleared. a lot of people who work for the government or have provided certain services often complain about the fact that we've delivered a project, but we haven't been paid on time. So when it's all digitized, when it's one click of a button that ensures that a payment is transferred straight from the government's account straight into the beneficiary's account, without having to go to an office, without having to go and sign and receiving a check somewhere, then I think it'll also increase the convenience in that regard. And so I think it'll bring more documentation, more transparency, lesser or reduced or perhaps to the almost hopefully eliminate the scope for any wrongdoing with respect to these payments, and it'll also reduce the time, and most importantly, it will reduce the amount of human resource that is required in just processing these payments. One figure I would like to mention is that I've been provided ahead of this discussion, is that the government of Pakistan loses approximately 18 billion rupees in processing only government payments without leveraging digital modes. So this is another cost that can be saved, and so therefore I think there are various benefits, but most of all, it's transparency, it's accuracy, it's speed, it's lesser need for human resources, and I think it's a smoother and more efficient system, which will have larger benefits for the overall economy. And I must say that when we talk about digitization of government payments, we are not just talking about the federal government, we're also talking about the provincial government, we're also talking about all state-owned enterprises. Right. And the end objective is to digitize all of these entities and their payments by December 2026.
Oh, perfect. So that's amazing. So it's not just going to be digital Islamabad, but it's going to be digital Pakistan eventually.
So just talking about one of the three pillars. So the three pillars are digital payments, innovation and adoption. The second is digital public infrastructure, and the third is the government payments. The government's payments pillar. The idea is that all government payments, federal government and provincial, including federal government's state-owned enterprises, for the payments to be digitized by the end of 2026, December 2026.
Okay, brilliant. Bilal, you mentioned that in Islamabad you have tried to almost reach every other shop or market vendors also. My question is, how did you incentivize them? I'll tell you. So for example, if I'm taking an Uber to work or somewhere, the first thing the driver is going to tell me is, cash kare rather, because if you transfer me, then there's a certain amount that's going to be cut because of the service fee, and then there's going to be tax deduction, so they prefer cash. I don't want to be carrying cash all the time. So people who are stakeholders on a smaller level, how do you incentivize them?
So I think I'll give you an example. I think, one thing we've done with respect to the merchants is that we were told that for merchants to set up, by merchants I mean, for example, retailers, shops. Let's take a coffee shop again for an example. We were told that for them to set up the facility for a QR code-based payment, there's a certain cost that's involved. For them to engage a vendor that provides the QR code-based payment system. And so the government has provided a subsidy for this year in order to reduce that cost. And so that's been done exactly to reduce the cost of the retailer so that they're able to adopt it, so that it doesn't feel so much of an added burden. But I think that we do need to go down this path. And I think the private market will also find its own solutions for this, because I think this is the eventual way forward. I'm sure if you get the chance to visit countries abroad, there are countries now where cash is virtually completely unused. One thing I would like to say is that in this cashless steering committee, which the Prime Minister chairs himself, and he takes these meetings every 2 weeks. I've been given the responsibility of coordinating prior to that meeting, and I work with all of our colleagues and all of our state institutions which are involved in this. The three pillars that I've mentioned, one is headed, the digital payments innovation and adoption is led by the State Bank. Okay. Digital public infrastructure is led by the IT Ministry, and government payments is led by the Finance Division. All right. And so it's an interministerial entity. But I must emphasize this, that in addition to all the relevant government agencies. We also have the representation of the private sector. We have the Pakistan Banks Association there. We have the CEOs of Jazz. We have the CEO of Easy Pesa. So we have the relevant people from both the public and private sector around the table to ensure that all the relevant stakeholders are there. They're part of the debate when we are making these policies, and to ensure that whatever policies are decided, they're actually relevant to the people who are actually doing this work on the ground.
That's amazing. But do you acknowledge the fact that there's really a lack of digital literacy among internet users in Pakistan? So when you are going to digitize Islamabad, eventually Pakistan, and bring in cashless economy, how do you raise awareness for cyber scams?
Yeah. So I'll make 3 points to that. Number one, one of the things that's happening here is that we have around 10 million beneficiaries of the Benazir Income Support Program, right? So the Benazir Income Support Program is roughly 700 billion rupees are dispersed every year, and or that's the overall budget for its various initiatives. These go to the poorest of the poor, who are identified as per a national socioeconomic registry, which is a survey which is validated by foreign agencies, multilateral development partners. So now one thing that's happening is, initially what used to happen is they used to get this money. It used to go to an agent. They used to get a text message. They would go to the agent, and they would give them the code, and they would take the cash and they'd go home. Now what's happening is that they're all getting their own e-wallets. So instead of them going to an agent and extracting the cash, now the money is going to hit their account directly. They're all getting e-wallets, which is effectively the same as practically opening 10 million bank accounts for the poorest of the poor.
And it's convenient.
So the Benazir Income Support Program is doing this. It's being rolled out district by district. I believe in the first round, it's being done in Sakkar, Hyderabad, and Rahim Yar Khan. And the idea is that by June 2026, for all 10 million beneficiaries, these social protection wallets are opened. But along with that, the point that you mentioned, the financial literacy aspect is critical, because here we are talking about the people who are at the lowest brackets of income, and at the lowest also brackets of literacy. And so the financial literacy aspect, I believe, is being taken care of by BISP itself, but also by Karandas, which is also part of the cashless steering committee here. And so that's going to go hand in hand. Similarly, at the same time, one entity which I think will be very central to the digitization of the entire government, or in fact of the entire country, when we talk about Digital Pakistan, which is the digitization of the entire country, both at a larger level. One entity that will be at the center of it in terms of regulation and standard setting is the Pakistan Digital Authority. And that entity has also been operationalized. So that will also play a role in terms of standard setting and I think financial literacy. And so, yeah, I do think that that will go hand in hand. But I think slowly but surely, as this is rolled out, the financial literacy aspect will also increase. I think one thing that is heartening is that if you think about Easy Pesa or Jazz Cash, for example, you see very common usage of it. So I think that's encouraging, and people do. So it shows that there is appetite for learning for this, and it's just a way of structuring it and giving it a bigger thrust regard. We've recently had a UAE bank called Mashrik Bank. They've launched their digital bank in Pakistan just around a month ago. And so that goes very much hand in hand with this cashless initiative. And they mentioned, I was speaking to the chairman, His Excellency Abdulaziz Al Ghurair, when he was here, and the Prime Minister himself launched that initiative. And he told me that from concept to operations, it took them less than 12 months in Pakistan.
Okay.
And that was very encouraging, because he said that this process can take up to 5 years in other countries. So he was talking about the fact that the regulatory approval process with the state bank has been smoother than they expected. The other thing that he said, which was also very encouraging, was that the entire tech stack for this digital bank was developed in Pakistan by Pakistanis.
Oh, wow.
So it's another proof of the talent that is available here. One thing, with your permission, that I would like to mention.
Of course, please.
is that on the digital payments adoption, innovation and adoption front, there are some specific targets that have been already given by the Prime Minister to the steering committee, and this is led by the State Bank, or let's just put it this way: the steering committee led by the Prime Minister has already decided. So the aim is to increase the number of active merchants offering digital payments in Pakistan from 500,000 currently to 2 million by the end of the financial year. So that's by June 2026. Similarly, the objective is to increase the number of digital banking users from 95 million currently to 120 million by June 2026. We intend to increase the number of annual digital transactions from 7.5 billion as of June 2025 to 15 billion by the end of June 2026. So that's a doubling of the number of digital transactions. And similarly, the remittances that are credited in accounts, they're currently 80%. We want to take that to 100% by June 2026. So you see, there is a quadrupling of the number of active merchants offering digital payments. There's a doubling of the number of digital transactions. Those are the targets that have already been set by this committee after due deliberations with public and private sector members. So there are ambitious targets. There's a drive. The Prime Minister thoroughly monitors the implementation and progress of this every 2 weeks himself.
Okay.
And so I think you'll start to see progress and effects of this on the ground increasingly in times to come.
I do believe that, but you already said what I was going to say. Do you think it's too ambitious?
I think that these targets that we are talking about, I think that there is always, the Prime Minister always likes to push his team, but I think that these targets are not without basis or logic or reason. Right. And so these targets, that is why these targets were first formulated after consultation by all the stakeholders. Whether that was the State Bank, the Finance Ministry was involved. They had the Pakistan Banks Association. We had private sector players there. So that is why all of the people who are relevant to this conversation, who have to then eventually lead this effort on the ground, it was these targets were set with their consultation. They are ambitious, but I think that the Prime Minister is always setting targets that push his team. And I think it's our job to chase them. If we set targets that are, ambitious, will we be able to make meaningful progress? So that's the objective here. And but I'm inshallah very hopeful that we'll see meaningful progress and the positive effects of this for the larger economy and for our citizens, inshallah.
Right, inshallah, we really do hope so too. And towards the end, it is going to, but broaden the tax base. But how is that going to affect the economy?
I think that it will help. See, we always talk about a very narrow base of taxpayers, or a very narrow base of tax filers, and an even narrower base of taxpayers.
Just to cut you off, on behalf of every working person, I have to say that we are the most burdened class in terms of tax paying. So we are hoping with this movement, we are going to be including a lot of non-filers also. Because if every transaction is going to be digitized, then you have a record, right?
Yeah. So this helps achieve that. And you're right. So this, when we talk about documentation of the economy, which is what we discussed at the top of the show, that is exactly what this helps achieve. When most of the economic activity at the retailer level, at the shop level, starts to get digitized, there is more transparency. It allows more data. The more documented the economy will be, the broader the taxation base will become. And that is what this will help achieve. And yes, the government is already working on not just broadening the tax base, but also deepening it, because there are various, when we talk about deepening the tax base, it includes, sadly, certain entities that do file their tax returns, but they're only paying a fraction of the taxes that they're supposed to pay. And so we do have that challenge as well. But I must say that last year, we increased our tax to GDP ratio from 8.8% to 10.2%, which is a significant jump that was achieved. And so, we made meaningful progress in terms of broadening of tax base, which is why we were able to collect a significant amount of money in enforcement alone. And this year, we again are working towards this. And so, yes, we're very much cognizant of the fact that tax rates are high. both for corporates and especially for salaried individuals. This is something that the Prime Minister himself has said, and that is why we're working very hard to document the economy, to broaden and deepen the tax base, so that the burden that is currently shouldered by the few is shouldered by more people, or shouldered by everyone who should be paying their fair share, and that should hopefully help us to reduce the burden on the ones that are paying more than their fair share.
Thank you so much for your presence, Bilal. I want to say that this is a goodbye to cash, but not to you guys. Conversations never end. I will catch you next week here in the chat room with Shizza. Take care.